I think we're live now, Dylan. All right,
Awesome.
so for the Hustle Buddies watching this replay, we are here with the co-founder of Aura, which is just an incredible repricing software. It can take your business to the next level. We've used it a number of times. We recommend it to nearly everyone that we talk to. So we're here with the co-founder. He's going to talk us through sort of what Aura is, why you should use REPRICER, how it all works, and then how to set up your account for the best practices. So Dylan, let us know who you are.
Yeah, hey, so thanks for having me. So I'm Dylan. I'm one of the two co-founders of Aura. We also initially launched VinDrive. We're still kind of running that, but the main focus is Aura. And yeah, we do repricing. We're kind of one, I guess, I hate to call us like the new kid on the block at this point because it's been about a year of being fully live and active. We're now integrated with Inventory Labs, which is kind of like a big, like, we did it.
Yeah, that's huge, man.
Validation. That took us like 6 months to get them to be like, okay, you guys are clearly serious. We'll take you. Because 2 other repricing tools launched the same time we did, and the other 2 are no longer here. So
wow.
we've done something right. Yeah, we initially launched Aura. So let me take you back. We launched VinDrive, which is a wholesale CRM tool. So just contact relation management, terminologies thrown around different ways. We come at this from being wholesale sellers, me and my co-founder James, and we kind of got sick of using spreadsheets and Gmail to manage the wholesale side of things. And James is actually he just finished his master's from UMass in computer science, so super smart guy, engineer. We released VinDrive, and we're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. It's pretty basic from a tech standpoint. We want a bigger challenge. What should we do? And we looked at this space and decided we want to go into the repricing space, why we wanted to do that, I have no idea, because this was not easy at all. Just from a technical standpoint, I can assure you this is incredibly complex.
Oh, I believe you, man.
And so we did. So we spent 8 months just developing a beta. Launched that with 20 people just to do some testing. And then December of last year, I flew to Amherst. I'm in Florida, so I flew to Massachusetts. We launched Aura publicly, and we've just been growing ever since. And we're actually now coming up on, our first key hires, which is pretty fun.
That's
so we're
great,
hiring
man.
another engineer, customer support rep. I mean, right now it's just there's 2 of us, and we've hopefully done a lot of things right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a testament to you guys. Your Aura, from what I've seen in like all the other Facebook groups I'm a part of, Aura is by far the most recommended repricer that I see everyone talk about.
Yeah. It's cool, man. It's nice. I remember there was one day somehow 3 different groups got the same question by completely different people. And I started getting messages from people that I know. Some of these were public groups. Mainly they were private groups. And they're like, hey, just wanted you to see this. And it's like, hey, what do you guys recommend? And it was like, Aura. I'm like, oh my gosh, we did it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we bootstrapped the company, so we didn't raise money. We didn't start running paid acquisition, so paid ads until like this month. We really focused on honing in a tight feedback loop with their user base, right? Like, we don't want to make the assumptions of what you need. I mean, yes, we come at this from being sellers, but we only know our own perspectives, which is wholesale. So it's there's more to Amazon, imagine that, than wholesale. And so we've just been having a tight feedback loop of what makes sense, how can we have a big impact, and tying that into the large project, what we want. And really, as a company, we don't consider ourselves a repricing company. Oddly enough, we consider ourselves an automation company. And so we want to bring technology to the space we love that exists elsewhere, but just not here for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Things like automation, right? Now, in order to do that, you got to have a just fantastic repricing tool, period. And then you can build automation on top of that. And so that's kind of where we've been focusing, just having that performance on point, that speed on point, finding any kind of ways that we can expand the value, all that good stuff. And now we're like, hey, we're ready. We need to start expanding into automation, do some really cool stuff that's kind of in our pipeline.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you're not a repricer company, an automation company, but as far as like telling people, like when you talk to people and they're like, I don't know if I should use a repricer.
Sure.
Like what would you say to the person who's sort of on the fence, or they're not really sure what the advantages are to using a repricer, as opposed to like, well, I can just do that for free myself. I can just click through and reprice stuff.
Yeah. I love it. I love these questions. And here's what's going to be completely counterintuitive, because everybody watching is going to be like, I know what he's going to say. You should all use a repricing tool. I'm not. There's some of you that shouldn't. If you're brand new and you have 10 SKUs, you don't need a repricing tool right now. I promise you. Wait, I'd rather you wait 3 months to where your business does need one, and then you can move forward with the tool. The way I approach this, right? Because how do you make that decision of, do I need one now or should I wait? I'm not sure. There's a few ways you can approach this. One, if you're finding yourself spending multiple hours a day just updating your prices, and this could not even be hours. This could just be the number of times you're checking your prices to update them. Because the chance that if you check it once an hour and you're having to make a change every hour, the chance of that actually being required every 15 minutes, on me being conservative, by the way, very high.
Oh yeah.
The chance of you needing that instantly, probably higher, especially as we move into Q4, right? Oddly enough, a lot of people are like, well, what's the best time to get a repricing tool outside of just where I am, like cyclically? Q4. Because
100%. Yep.
Competition fluctuates, right? The thing you got to keep in mind is that the buy box is what we're optimizing for, ideally, right? That's where we're getting our sales from, for the most part. What a lot of people think is that the buy box is just this thing that sits here. It's a fixed thing, and sometimes it changes. No, if we actually visualize the data, which we've done, it actually oscillates up and down. It's a market, just like anything else, right?
Yeah.
The market is trying to use supply and demand to create equilibrium. What we want to do is to release some of the time constraints that you're having, and doing that manually, apply the strategies you would utilize yourself, plus some things you can't do yourself because you don't have access to the data. And by the way, you're a human, and automate that and let that happen 24/7. And that's what we want. So we want to free you up. The thing that I like to say about being an Amazon seller is you should be spending 80+% of your time. And typically my conversations revolve around wholesale, but you should be spending 80+% of your time doing things that generate revenue. For the majority of Amazon sellers, that's sourcing, right? So if you're changing your prices, that's you not sourcing. Anything we can do to hand off to a computer, a machine, whatever you want to call it, to do the things that you would do yourself but better, it's incredibly cost effective. Because what happens, let's say you're just doing an hour a day of updating your prices. You're like, Dylan, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I got this.
Yeah.
Let's roll with that. Okay, let's say your time is worth just $50 an hour, right? So 50 times 5, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Now, if a tool could cost you what it would take 2 hours of your time, and you can spend those 5 hours sourcing and increasing your SKUs, there's an arbitrage there. That's a profitable arbitrage I'm willing to make every single day. It's a cost thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what does it cost to have a machine do something for you 24/7 and you to not have to really worry about it again? That's what we want, ideally, right? So if you're trying to figure out, like, is it a good time? Is it a bad time? If you have, I would say, at least over 20 SKUs, you should begin to consider it. Here's a cool thing about tools, and this is not order specific, this is any tool. Free trials are great. There's 2 different kinds. There's a gated trial, which means you put in a credit card before the free trial starts. And then there's an ungated trial, which means you sign up, no credit card. If you convert over towards the end, it requires a credit card. We're an ungated trial.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that means there is absolutely no downside for you.
Yeah.
Other than obviously you setting up the tool, and we're here to help with that. So don't feel like you're alone. But there's no downside. So here's a good test. If you're like, I still just don't know. We have a 14-day trial. Honestly, 14 days is plenty. A lot of people are like, no, give me like 3 months. I'm like, no, way too much time. But 14 days is enough for you to take a day or 2 to get it set up and to let it start to run, and to allow us even to help you make tweaks on the performance side. You let that run for 14 days and you see, did my sales increase? You'll notice it. If your sales increase 10, 20, 30%, we're probably doing something that you want to continue to do, right?
Uh-huh.
And if that's not the case, great, cancel the account. You didn't lose anything, you move on,
Yeah.
right? And again, regardless of the tool, that's how you should always approach new tools. If you're like, I want to try it, I'm not really sure what the value is going to be for me. I hear good things, but I just don't know. Great, go try it and see for yourself. It's your own little mini experiment, right? Go run it. It either went well, it went terrible, or nothing changed. That's your three options here. And if it went well, awesome. You can continue with us. And there's not much else for you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you guys have that. I didn't know that it was like the ungated free trial.
Yeah.
But I know we've had a lot of members in our group already posting. They'll post like snapshots of their sales before Aura, after Aura, and it's always just
love
like,
that.
boom. They like tripled their sales.
Yes, I love getting those, and it's like an arrow, and it's like, turn it on here. I'm like, oh my God.
There's the on
switch. It's super cool. Yeah, exactly. It's super cool.
So would you recommend, like with a free trial and talking about Q4, like, would you say getting a repricer up and running before Black Friday would be like a really important aspect? Or is it the sort of thing that they should kind of wait?
I don't think you should ever wait for something like this. I'm trying to think of a good analogy as an example, but or here's a good one. Like, what's the best time to invest? 20 years ago. What's the next best time? Today, right?
Yep.
Similar thing. Ideally, have it up before Black Friday so you're good to go. What you're doing is you're leveraging a computer to handle a lot of this fluctuations. I mean, think about it. I can type pretty fast. I'm a nerd. Like, I type really fast. I could not click and type and update and mentally process price changes as quickly as a computer can do. It's not going to happen. That's why they exist. Now, during a Black Friday, a Q4 kind of season, when things begin to increase, because a lot of people think repricing tools are just about pushing the price down. Not correct. We can also push the price up. So we've had some people say, well, Amazon's pricing features free. Why shouldn't I just use that? Great question. It's actually, and this is going to sound funny, Amazon's repricing tool is the fastest repricing tool. Why? Because there's no lag, right? Because when we do it, we have to submit it to them. They have to accept it and then confirm with us. About a minute and a half on average. So when you say instant repricing, we are instant on our end. We have to wait for Amazon. That's every repricing tool. If any repricing tool says instant, that's what they mean. We try to be transparent about that too. Well, Amazon doesn't have to submit it to themselves. They just do it. Here's the issue. They can't take you up. And they can't factor in any kind of logic or algorithm, right? So you could go that route. You can test it, but here's the issue. When Q4 prices begin to inflate 2, 3, 4 times, where are you gonna set? Right there at the bottom.
Yep.
So yes, you're gonna sell out very quickly and that's fantastic, but you're gonna give up, 200-300% ROIs.
Yep. And what we've told people, like when other people ask us that same question, we sort of use the analogy, it's like the fox guarding the hen house. Like, Amazon wants the customer to have the best possible experience.
Exactly.
If they're buying this toy, let's say you have a Lego set or something, they want you to sell it at your minimum price because that gives their customer the best possible experience. So 100%. They have no incentive for changing your price up and down or getting you the best whatever. They just want you as low as you're willing to go because that's best for their customer.
And ours is the opposite, because if all we do is tank your prices, you won't continue with us and we don't have a business. So
exactly,
and that's kind of what we were talking about before we started recording and being live is this idea of like a oscillation strategy, right? So we can kind of dynamically use their algorithms against them, right? We know that they're going to give preferential treatment for lower offers. This is why when you reprice below by a penny, you get the buy box. Great. But is that the whole thing? Not really. We talked earlier how naturally the buy box price fluctuates up and down. It's an oscillation, right? It's an active dynamic market. That's how this works. And so what we can do is we can actually reprice below by a penny, and don't worry, we're not trying to tank prices, but we're doing this to actually to gain buy box ownership. But the key point here that makes this little strategy work is once we reach our min price, we actually have Aura take us to our max price, and we sit there. We wait for the buy box to come back above our min price. Now, this happens in two ways. Either we take advantage of psychology, which we would also fall prey to, which is, why am I the lowest seller in the buy box? Raise my price. Then we can start this whole thing over again. Or another repricing tool we're fighting against, we reprice up. They go, wait a second, automatically I need to reprice back up because I don't want to be the lowest. And we take advantage of this oscillation. And so instead of trying to write it organically, we just take control over it. We say, listen, reprice below by a penny, we hit our min, jump back up. And what we're trying to do is increase our buy box ownership percentage by repricing below, but then jump to our max so that we can increase the average sell price. This is where a lot of Amazon sellers, especially that when they go deep on products, they optimize every single sell. Don't do that. You want to look at the average, right? If you got 100 units of a particular SKU, you shouldn't really care about every single one being perfect. Instead, you want to say, okay, what's the average price or the average profit I got for these 100? Because you might find that the average is actually much higher utilizing this kind of a strategy than just trying to hold it here.
Yeah.
We're just taking advantage of economics. That's really all we're doing. Oddly enough.
I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So we've got a couple questions already over here in the group. I'm thinking we'll sort of save those if you're willing to sort of like show us like how to set up an Aura account, how to get like, because I know you use a lot of like, it's a rule-based repricer. So you have to sort of set it up to get it functioning. Exactly. If you could sort of show us some like best practices, things like that, that'd be great. And then we can sort of go through some of these questions there at the end.
Perfect. Yeah. You want to jump right into that?
Yeah. I think you should be able to share your screen on your end.
Cool. Let me increase the size there. All right, so this is just the dashboard, right? But what we should really focus on is that strategy side, because that's where a lot of people have questions. What we did early on, let me move this over here. So we had a few pre-configured strategies, and they were the basic stuff, right? I want to be the lowest. I want to focus on, you know, the merchant fulfilled, stuff like that.
Actually, real quick, can I pause? Did it show marketplaces? Can you use this repricer for eBay and Walmart as well?
Not right now.
Okay.
Not right now.
All right. I was just checking. I thought that was whoa.
Yeah. So what we did early on, you know, we spent so much time working on building and designing strategies, and that's where I spend a lot of my time now with our users. And we had a lot of people getting started, and they're like, hey, just what's a good strategy that you would recommend that I can plug and play? And you know, we had screenshots. We're like, that doesn't work. Let's just build it in here. And so we created the pre-configured buy box targeting strategy. Now, this will target the buy box. It's great out of the box. It does a few things really well, but it doesn't utilize this oscillation strategy, which I like. But that's not perfect for everyone. So we don't just prescribe that out, obviously. So getting started, even when I'm building a custom strategy, although we do have the custom strategy builder, I still start with this because 9 times out of 10, 9.8 times out of 10, actually, I'm targeting the buy box itself. Even when I'm trying to be super aggressive, even when I'm building a liquidation strategy, I'm still targeting the buy box. I see this happen a lot with new sellers where they're like, I want to be super aggressive, and then they target the lowest offer. But here's the thing. You can be in position 1, which is the lowest offer, but not have the buy box, in which case it's null. It doesn't matter. Instead, we just want to take more aggressive measures to control and operate that buy box. So either way, I'm targeting the buy box. So we're making an assumption for you here. So we skip the strategy type, which if you want to see what that looks like, that's this page here. Now, this is the custom. So it's like, hey, whatever you want to do, do it. I would not suggest just jumping into custom, hitting continue, and praying for things to go well. They won't, because this is not set up for that. But what we're doing with the pre-configured buy box targeting strategy is say, okay, well, our competition type is going to be only buy box, featured sellers. We're not going to exclude Amazon as a competitor. We're going to exclude sellers by their feedback rating at least 80% or below. We're going to exclude those, which luckily with us targeting the buy box itself, this is very important. We're not targeting a seller or an offer. We're targeting the buy box price, which comes into the pursuit section, which I will absolutely add tons of clarity to new users who are like, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
Roll with me. So 80%, so a lot of this is kind of by default, but I like to bake these things in here because you might say, you know what, I want to try lowest FBA. Well, guess what? Now this matters tremendously. This matters tremendously. This matters tremendously. But we have defaults built into here, so you don't have to think about all those as much as you would before. We're also excluding competition with longer handling times, right? So 3+ days. We like to do this. It makes sense. Again, with us targeting the buy box, the likelihood of us competing against an offer like that is much lower. But I'm building in redundancies. Remember, we're nerds. So we like terms like automation and redundancy, but these are the thing. This is a system, right? And so we're applying systems kind of thinking here. And then if you do have used items, your used items can either be competed against same or better condition or all conditions. I would recommend always defaulting this to used in the same or better condition. If you never touch used stuff, don't worry about it. It's completely irrelevant. So just kind of jump back over here, but I just want to walk through what's happening there without skipping it.
Yeah.
So then the next section. So we just finished up the strategy type, choosing the competition who we're actually targeting. Now we're saying, listen, when I'm not in the buy box, here's what I want Aura to follow. We're building our algorithm right now, right? Here's what I like to do. We're making the assumption that you're an FBA seller. If you're MFN, it changes a little bit, but not dramatically. Now, what I like to do, let's do this. By itself, we got these disabled, pretty simple. Regardless of the seller in the buy box, we're going to reprice below by penny. Great. I'm going to make this a little bit more advanced. We're going to factor in a few other things here. So if I enable price differently against prime sellers, so that's FBA and SFP, so seller fulfilled prime, they're weighted the exact same in the buy box, doesn't matter. This top section now is for merchant fulfilled offers, right? If you think through the logic, right, we're going to handle prime sellers differently. What's left over, merchant fulfilled. Here's what I like to do. I like to price above them by 2 to 3%. Right now, we've noticed, especially in the Canadian markets, which are way different, by the way, you have to be much closer to merchant fulfilled offers. Don't know why, but it's a thing.
Huh, interesting.
We used to kind of be closer to the 5 to 7% range, but we found that we can reprice that, but you're not actually pulling in the buy box. So that gap's starting to close. This could be because of Q4, not quite sure yet. So 2 to 3%, we're going to price above because we're a better offer. That's fantastic.
And then just to pause here for the people that are super new and they're trying to figure out what exactly this is. When you are like merchant fulfilling an item versus when it's Amazon fulfilling an item, very, very frequently you can price above that merchant fulfilled price. All right, so that's what this is sort of breaking down here, how much above you can price and still get the buy box from them.
Exactly, because you're essentially a better offer for the customer, right? Because you have that 2-day offer. Now, if we want to go this price oscillation strategy, which I would recommend you to kind of try, what we would do then for pricing against prime sellers is we would actually reprice below by a penny. Now, for those of you who just gasped when I said reprice below by a penny,
it's your fault.
I know. Listen, there's this whole misconception, and again, I come from being a seller myself for like 3 to 5 years, and I believe this too until we started a repricing company. I was like, wait a second, it's totally different. Yes, if you just reprice below by a penny by itself, you are altering the price. Are you tanking it? Not necessarily. That's not exactly the case. And to be honest, this is business, and the whole we should all just play fair, it doesn't work. Unfortunately, it only takes one other seller to say, well, you guys can do that, but I'm gonna reprice below by a penny to move my items, and I'm not really giving up much. We're already there. So it's kind of like play the game or don't.
Yeah.
Hate to be that way, but that's kind of how it is. I just like to be blunt about that. If we can move past the immediate freak out about repricing below by a penny, I promise you, you're going to use it, see it work, and be like, oh, okay, it makes sense now. So I like to kind of get that caveat out there.
Yeah,
because people
absolutely.
are like, wait a second, guys. And so moving on to the third one, you can price differently against Amazon. The thing to keep in mind with this specific setting, although it's always Amazon.com or just Amazon as the seller, they actually have dozens upon dozens of unique seller IDs, which all we see as a developer is seller ID. Right. So sometimes you will see that you are not able to actively target that specific Amazon seller ID because it's not in our database yet. We're expanding, we're finding new ones like every week. It's ridiculous, like it's massive. And so basically what they've done is they've restricted Amazon into different groups, so different selling teams. each team has its own seller ID, but it always shows it as Amazon.
Yeah.
Little things you never know. You're like, why does Amazon have like 30 seller IDs? Oh, okay. So keep that in mind. I like to be transparent about this kind of stuff, but you can certainly say, you know what? I want to reprice below them by 25 cents. I want to match them. You can just treat them differently. I do not have a prescription here. I get asked that all the time. Like, what should I do? It varies, it ranges. Because there's so many different teams, they actually treat their prices differently. So on one listing, repricing below by a penny, it's going to work phenomenal. On another one, matching, you're still going to get rotation. On the third one, you can match, you can reprice below by a penny, and they go, tough, we're not going to give you anything. So to be honest, I usually just disable this. I'm like, if it's Amazon, they're in the buy box, they're prime, awesome. Just treat them how I treat them, and it is what it is. Now, the custom strategy has a little bit different wording in this next section. Instead of buy box, we actually put win the competition. And instead of suppressed, we put win the competition, or when there is no competition. The reason why I make this point is it will seem very confusing. But the clarity here is to replace the word competition with your competition type. Now, because this is pre-configured, we know that your competition is the buy box itself, which therefore we can go ahead and dynamically reset this. Here's why this is important. Or it can automatically handle suppressed buy boxes for you, right? If there is no competition and your competition type is the buy box, well, then by default, there is no buy box. So it's suppressed. And so what we like to do is say, great, let's take our current price and then lower it by 2 pennies every 2 to 3 minutes until one of two things happen. We either reach our min price or we reactivate the buy box, whichever comes first, right? We can't control that, but what we can do is say, hey, let's at least start lowering, because we know why buy boxes get suppressed anyways. Amazon just doesn't like our price. Great, let's begin to lower it.
Yeah, and I think that's really powerful. I've seen a lot of people recently complaining about Amazon is marking their stuff as like a pricing error or something like that, and they just keep having to lower it, and they don't know where to lower it to, and they're always trying to fix it. So this sort of automates that.
And then 3 hours later, you're like, I'm still doing this. Yeah, so this will automatically trigger once a suppressed buy box comes up. Amazon or begins doing its thing, and it takes care of that automatically, which is really nice. The difference here, though, and why I point out the competition or the competition type is super important. If our competition type is lowest FBA, well, this would be when there is no lowest FBA seller, meaning, and because you're the exclusion, you would be the only FBA seller. So a lot of sellers get confused with this, and we're trying to find a better way to word this. Because a lot of sellers think, well, when this says when there is no competition, I think no other FBA sellers. And that logically makes sense. However, the context is it's the buy box in this situation. But if it, so a lot of sellers will like, hey, I'm the only seller on this listing. Why isn't this doing this thing? I set it to go to my max. Not exactly what it's doing. Now it can if you change your competition to lowest FBA, right? The next 3 sections, super easy, but very important on the last one. So when the competition, or again, when the buy box is at or below our min price. Now, if we're gonna move forward with the price oscillation strategy, I keep both of these top 2 at use min price. We're gonna take it down there, right? But then to jump back up to our max price, to reset this whole loop that we're trying to accomplish here, I'm gonna say when my price reaches my min price, go to my max price. That completes the loop by itself. So the entire oscillation strategy to make this work is reprice below by a penny and then go to our max price once we've reached our min price. Now, again, these can absolutely change if you're using a competition targeting the lowest FBA. As an example, if we're targeting the lowest FBA, well, if there's an FBA seller below our min price, I'm probably just gonna ignore them. If they're at our min price, I'll probably use our min price. So you can see how these can dynamically change depending on what you're targeting, specifically. But again, 9.8 times out of 10, I'm targeting the buy box. Keep it simple. I'm going to use min, and then use max price. Does that make sense?
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Absolutely.
And in the last section here, use max price when out of stock. Kind of a nice feature, especially for wholesale replenishable things. And then we'll go to the next section. So the maintenance section. This was very confusing when we first launched, because a lot of people thought, naturally, again, that, well, if I set this to raise price by a penny, it's just going to keep raising my price until I get kicked out of the buy box and then pull me back down. No. I love the idea, but it's actually technically very difficult to do that with a level of accuracy. And so we do it a little bit different. The second assumption, real quick, is that, well, I'm gonna have it go up once I am in the buy box, but I want it to go up $5 or within $5. Not what it does. So I want to get complete clarity on this setting because it helps a lot. What it does instead, this is a mini strategy for only when you are in the buy box. Then what's going to do is say, hey, am I the lowest FBA buy box eligible offer? If yes, I want to raise my price to within a penny of the next lowest seller. So a
because
great example
multiple
of this.
sellers can be eligible to receive the buy box.
Correct. And we don't really know. And here's the thing to keep in mind. It's easy for us as humans in some situations to be like, well, I know I've been at this price, lost it, and came back down. I was fine. But technically, that doesn't correlate. So we have to approach this differently. And so we want a high predictability of maintaining the buy box while utilizing a raise price strategy. So if you're at $20, you're in the buy box, awesome. The next lowest FBA buy box eligible offer is at $25. Based off the current settings, this will take you to $24.99. So we're reclaiming a lot of the profit without giving up the buy box percentage. Otherwise, we could just jack your price up, lose the buy box. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. You could have this say, I want to match. I want to go to 25. Perfect. Set this to a 0.00 value. You're great. The importance here is that you don't want to have this be a huge value, because if we did put the $5, based off our example, we would just stay at $20, right? Because the next low is at 25. We wanted a $5 delta. We're sitting at 20. So I recommend anywhere between a penny to 2 pennies, maybe 5 on the really conservative end. But this works really well. As an alternative, you can lower and raise. So this will look to, where can I lower my price to a better offer? Because we know Amazon wants a good offer. Well, if we're having a lot of aggressive sellers and just tons of competition, well, I would probably set this to lower and raise, because I want to give Aura the ability to say, listen, yes, I'm in the buy box, but if there's a better offer than me, I might want to go down. Or, hey, now I'm the lowest, take me up. So we're giving a lot of flexibility here. And certainly you can set this to disabled. We just don't want to use the setting as all. We just want to use the pursuit section. I don't care if I'm in the buy box. If I'm in the buy box, leave me alone. Once I'm kicked out, do something. Right? Sometimes that actually does make sense. Not a lot. I'd say like 2 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
But this is typically the recommendation that I'm going to make, right? So raise price by a penny. We're trying to maximize profit, because a lot of people think repricing, you're tanking my prices to increase sales, right? That's the economics. Not really.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't want to make you more revenue. I want to make you more profits.
Yeah.
Revenue is kind of irrelevant to me, to be honest. Instead, we're trying to find this nice equilibrium of, yes, we want to increase sales, because without sales, you don't have profits. But how do we make sure, again, that we're increasing the average sell price that we have? That's super important. So this setting allows us to do that in a very intelligent manner. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. In last section, the easiest one, unless you like profit margin. Some people like profit. Are you a ROI or a profit margin person?
I tend to go with ROI usually.
Okay. So there's some people that are like, no, profit margin, period. Don't talk to me. Which I get it. I just give them a hard time. Yeah. I just like ROI. It's easier.
Yeah.
You got 4 methods for setting your min and your max prices. So you can automatically do this, which is fantastic. Right? We don't charge extra for this. We have a single price tier. We're not going to charge you more for something like that. By the way, charging more for this when it costs 0 from a technical standpoint is ridiculous. So you can obviously manually enter these. With us being automation nerds, we don't really recommend that. However, sometimes it does make sense logically. It depends on what situation you're in. The second, ROI, my favorite, you're just saying, listen, factor in my cost, factor in the Amazon fees, and then I want to make 30%. Awesome. Minimum 30%. It's going to dynamically set these based off your cost and the fees that we're going to pull in. So you'll have to give Aura your cost. 2 ways you can do that, or 3 ways technically. Manually one by one, don't recommend. Our uploads feature, which is fantastic, or just integrate it with Inventory Lab, nice and easy. We'll automatically pull those in. You can assign that strategy and it'll calculate, be good to go.
Yeah, that alone is a huge
Yeah.
feature for any repricer. Just having it integrated with your Inventory Lab so that you don't have to do any other work. Inventory Lab should already know all of your buy costs for things if you're using it properly.
Exactly.
And so just being able to click one button and it will pull all of that over for you and automatically adjust your min and max prices. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, and what's cool is, you know, a lot of people say, well, my prices fluctuate, so, or my costs fluctuate, so I want my min and my maxes to fluctuate. I'm like, well, Aura pulls in your active cost per unit. So if that changes, well, we just recalculate and move forward. So that's automatic. What we want, and it's kind of hard to see because we're in the early stages of this, you know, full kind of automation push.
Yeah.
We wanted the Inventory Lab integration because that enables so many other things to work really well. So we have some automation features we want to build that will, you know, take in some criteria. You might say, listen, if the SKU contains the keyword Walmart, assign strategy A and toggle on repricing. Great. As long as it hits that trigger, it'll do that for you. And oh, by the way, if you want to change all your Walmart SKUs from strategy A to strategy B, well, don't do that one by one. Just go to the setting, change it from strategy A to strategy B, and move forward.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, they'll sell a lot of a specific thing like Walmart stuff, or they're a book seller, but then they do some RA, and there's like completely different criteria used for books or RA. Or like we sell a ton of bras, and usually like our bra rules differ some from our regular
100%.
Everyday retail arbitrage rules.
Right.
So, yeah, that's fantastic.
And so we want to give you more flexibility, right? So it may not be SKU, it may be title, it may be category, it may be rank, whatever you kind of want to set as the trigger for the automation. You say, if this happens, I want you to do this.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what's great is what we can then develop as well with Inventory Lab. So Aura pulls in a new listing, pulls in the cost from Inventory Lab. We run your automation rule, apply the correct strategy. Based off the strategy, we automatically set your mins and maxes and toggle on repricing. All you did was list your inventory in Inventory Lab like you already do. Everything else happened automatically without you. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Early stages, but we're really excited about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man.
It's gonna be fun. So on the max side, how are you setting maxes? These are really tough to set. I will be the first one to say these are very tough to set automatically.
They are really tough to set. It sort of depends on the item because because different categories are very, very different. If I buy, if I'm like reselling pencils, let's say, and I bought them for $1, it completely changes compared to if I bought like a $60 pair of Nikes. It just, the numbers are really hard to use.
Yeah, and I'll show you how to kind of handle low cost items because for whatever reason, these are super tough. I mean, it's the math, right? ROI is relative. What we do want to do, and we have an idea of how we can do it, we want to dynamically set max prices. Like automatically set them, but they fluctuate up and down based off economics of the actual listing itself. So it's like, yeah, just set your min, we'll set the max. We can utilize this oscillation strategy. It's all good. Here's the thing. You're not going to use the oscillation strategy, meaning you're not going to take your price to your max. The max is kind of irrelevant. We're not going to use it. So if you're not going to do that, it's totally fine. Just leave this blank and move forward. So you don't have to use it. I recommend it. But it's not a hard set requirement. Obviously, if you're using a strategy that goes to your max price, you got to have a max price to do that. So we can set these pretty easily. If you ever need to change these, you come back to the strategy settings, change it from 30 to 35%. That floods through, you're done. Profit margin, exactly the same thing. Although keep in mind, ROI calculations versus a profit margin calculation are completely different. I've had people be like, yeah, I went from 30% ROI to 30% profit margin. I'm like, stop everything. We gotta change a few things.
That's a huge pet peeve when people, I mean, not really a pet peeve, but just something I see a lot where people are like, oh, what's your margin on this? And it's like, that's the wrong term for the wrong thing. Try to make sure you're using like the right verbiage for the right terminology, or you're going to get all sorts of confused.
Being a finance major, I'm like, please use the correct terminology here because it changes the context of what we're talking about dramatically.
Yes.
Now, how do you handle low cost products? Because ROI, 30% ROI on $1 is 30 cents.
Yeah, currently
you might want to make $5.
Currently, I would say like with our real low price stuff is I'm pulling it over into an Excel sheet and I'm
Yeah.
doing stuff manually just because it's so difficult to
Sure.
automate low price things compared to my, I guess, normal price things that
Yeah.
I'm usually manually entering in my min and
Sure.
max.
So we have similar issues with books, right? Because you pay for a penny for a book, or you get it for free. Well, what's 30% ROI on a free book? Technically infinite, right? It doesn't work. But what you can do is the fourth option, which is fixed profit. So this is not a ratio. This is a dollar amount. So I might want to say, you know what, on my pencils, I want to make at least $2 in profit. Great, done. We care about your cost, but we're just like, we're going to give you $2 in profit, minimum. On the max, I might be willing to take $12. I just set my min, my max, and I can move forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, awesome.
It's a good way to handle low cost items. I don't know why they're so painful, but they really are. You would think they wouldn't be because they're so cheap. So the last thing, how do you set a name for a strategy that helps you during a workflow? This is super important. You know, we make the joke here, buy box dominator 5,000. It's a joke. We're nerds. Don't use that because it tells you nothing. Instead, I want to bake into the name what's baked into the strategy. So when I'm reading the title, I know what's inside. So what are we doing here? Well, we're targeting the buy box. So we'll put buy box. I might then put, let's see, the pursuit section. We're actually doing the oscillation strategy. So I might do just a shorthand for oscillation. So I know I'm repricing below by a penny. I'm going back to my max. Awesome. The maintenance section, we're raising our price by a penny. So I might do raise 0.01 for maintenance. And if I have no idea what that means, I can even just put, you know, maintenance. Here's what I'm doing for my maintenance. And then I'm setting my mins and maxes using an ROI. And we're using 30%. And let's just say we're using 120% on the high end. So whenever I'm applying strategies, assuming you have 3 to 5, which most sellers will at some point, it gets harder to know what's inside of every single one. And to be frank, you don't need to remember every single setting in your strategies when you can just read it and know exactly what you want to use. So if I didn't know anything about the strategy, I could say, well, it's targeting the buy box, it's oscillating the price. In the maintenance section, it's making sure that I'm always, you know, raising my price where I can, so I'm not always the lowest seller by a large margin, giving up profit. And I'm setting my min and max prices using ROI of the 30% and 120%. Great, done. I can apply this and move on. Makes it super easy. And then when you do that, you get a little confetti, which is always nice.
Yay!
And so this is great, right? So I can even see this one. Oh, okay, I'm using the buy box targeting pre-configured strategy, price cycling, right? It makes it super simple because what you end up seeing, and this is our demo, so let me see if I can pull up some listings here. So what you end up seeing is this, just the titles. So if I'm trying to quickly go through here and be like, what do I need to apply? I might have an idea, but not remember the name. Well, it's probably gonna be this one because I know what's inside of it. I change it and I move on, right? Nice and easy. So hopefully that gives you an idea of like how we approach building strategies. It really does not, I know it's intimidating for a lot of people because there can be a ton of logic in there. It doesn't have to be that bad. If you just take 20 minutes to think through the settings and how they relate and how they would work logically, you'll have this down. And don't feel like you're alone. That's one thing that when we started Aura, we're like, we're not going to outsource customer support. I'm going to do it. I do all of it still. If you're like, hey, Dylan, I need help with a strategy that does X, Y, and Z, I'm going to help build that for you. I'm going to explain, here's what I did and here's why. Or if you're like, I built it, I turned it on, it's not exactly doing what I thought it would, why? Well, I can go through, say, oh, it's either this setting or, you know, the expectation was wrong, or we need to change this to that. So don't feel like you're alone. That's one thing with repricing tools. A lot of people are like, it's overwhelming. It doesn't need to be. We can make that easy for you.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you going through all of that and sort of setting it up and showing us some best practices. I can't see it on my computer for some reason, but I have my phone with the live feed of the questions. So do you mind if I sort of just like rapid fire shoot a couple off?
Perfect.
All right. So some of these won't pertain anymore. So like Ethan asked, what strategy is best for beginners? So we sort of already went through that one. Next person, Kyle, asked, how is Aura different than things like Bqool and REPRICE It? Yeah, so how do you guys differentiate
Sure.
yourselves?
One, speed, which is kind of important. You know, REPRICE It, we don't really consider a competitor. Not in like a rude way. They're just not kind of they don't target the same kind of user base we do. Bqool is kind of similar. To be honest, they target sellers that want a $25 a month repricing tool. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you give up a lot. And what I mean by that is they actually started running ads against Aura, which was kind of funny to see. So I think we kind of
must be doing something right then.
Yeah, I know. So on their most expensive tier, which is I believe $99, the repricing speed is every 5 minutes. Aura is instant. Now we talked earlier about what instant means. That means we are instant. Informed is actually instant as well, but there's a 1.5 to 2 minute lag time on Amazon side, which every repricing, every developer will have. So you have a 1 to 2 minute or 1.5 to 2 minute lag time plus a 5 minute wait time. So actually your speeds are greater than 5 minutes on the high end. If you're paying $25, it's every 15 minutes, not including the lag time. So yes, it is cheaper. But what do you give up? The analogy I like to give is if we're trying to drag race cars and you're like, you know what, but I want the cheap option. I don't want the Ferrari. You're like, I got a bicycle. It's $20. Great. It is the cheapest option.
Yeah.
But you will lose the race. And we're playing a game of speed and performance here, right? So that speed matters tremendously. You can spend $25 and have a 0% ROI, or you can spend a bit more and have a much higher positive ROI.
Absolutely.
And that's not even just Aura, that's any other tool. So I would say that's the biggest one, right? So price and speed, or price to speed, however you want to do that. We have heard, you know, customer support is not exactly the best.
That's why we left Bqool.
Right.
Yeah.
And majority of our users have come from Bqool because of that. You know, we do that in-house. You know, I think Bqool is based out like Singapore. But we come at this from being sellers. We also have empathy. We understand why you're stressed out when you reach out and you're like, hey, this isn't working. I'm freaking out. I know, because it's Q4. And like, you know, so from a support standpoint, we have a very specific KPI that we try to measure. We try to hit it as best we can, which is an initial response time of within 10 minutes. We do live chat and email, typically live chat. We try to hit that as best we can. Sometimes, you know, it's the last 2 weeks of a semester for me. So I'm like, you know,
for those of you who don't know, Dylan's actually finishing college. Like, he co-founded this entire organization while in school, which is insane. That's nuts, man.
But we still hit it. You know, I mean, like right
incredible.
now, the average is, I think, at 14 minutes because last 2 weeks, you know, but we still do really well on that side. And it's a focus, right? So support's important. I mean, just even a tech team, like where we're going, it's early stages. So what's interesting is a lot of people do love Aura, those who use it. And I'm like, we're just getting started. Like, you know, the features that we just talked about, like the automation workflows and stuff like that, that's still on the horizon. And we're actually potentially about to go through a rebuild, which is going to help on the speed side even more.
That's great.
So we're willing to do a lot of things. I mean, we're, you know, we have full control, which is great. Like, I'm one of the two founders. We didn't raise money, so we dictate what happens, you know?
And then so from my perspective, adding on something else as far as like why use Aura over something else, like something like Bqool that's a little bit cheaper. From just a business standpoint, when I'm looking at tools, I don't look at how much it costs me. I look at how much it can make me. So for example, if I'm comparing Bqool to Aura, and I'm selling, I'll just use numbers for easy math. I'm selling 10,000 a month, let's say, for easy math. Okay, well, I have to, or my profit is 10,000 a month in profit. All I have to really do is do like, what is that, 1% or 5% or something? Like, I just have to, a tiny microscopic 1%. Better, and it'll pay for itself. So as long as it's that percentage better than whatever the inferior option is, then go for it.
Yeah. And that's I mean, from a business standpoint, I'm glad you brought that up. That's the way we look at tools too. You know, what's funny is companies who are in the SaaS space, which we are considered SaaS, we're like the biggest consumers of other SaaS products because we need so many. And we listen, we do the same thing. There's always the cheapest option.
Yes.
And whenever a company is the cheapest option, we usually see that as a red flag because we're like, are they really going to be a good fit? I'm willing to spend more money if I'm actually going to have a positive ROI. That's what's important. Regardless of Aura, regardless of any tool, what's the ROI versus another? It's an opportunity cost too, right? So you got to think about it from that kind of standpoint as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. So the next one I see, about how long does it take to set up your existing prices, and can I use this without Inventory Lab?
Yeah, so Inventory Lab's just a free integration if you would like to. You certainly don't have to. It depends on a few things, and I'll kind of share. We've had a few users reach out and be like, hey, like, can you help me get set up? I'm like, yes, absolutely. You know, we need to get your costs pulled in, your mins, maxes, if we can. Do you have that stored somewhere? Like, no, I have no storage of my costs. I'm like, okay, we have bigger problems. You don't know if you're making money yet.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. We have an uploads page, and actually, I'll kind of show that real quick. And again, don't feel like you have to do this by yourself. I do this all the time helping users. So we have an uploads page. What's great is we do have a pre-filled template, so you can download that. It's got all your listing data. You can actually make changes. You can assign a strategy. You can change cost. You can toggle on repricing and then upload the file and make those changes. Now, if you're coming from another tool, chances are you can export your cost, min, and max data. Well, if you can export that, and assuming it at least has your SKU in it as well, so I know what I'm looking at, you can send me that file. I'll do the legwork in like 10 minutes to convert it to a uploadable format. And assuming your listings are imported by that time, I can upload that. All your costs, mins, and maxes will be there. And if you're like, hey, Dylan, I already created a strategy. I want to apply it to 100% of my listings. I'll go, great. I'll apply that for you and toggle on repricing if you'd like in that one upload. So in terms of time, not long, but it depends on, you know, what format your data is in. If you're like, no, it's in like a text document on Word, it's going to take a little bit more time. But yeah.
Perfect. This person asks, how do used books do with Aura? Can you guys handle things like used books?
So I'll be the first one to say not well. And that's the majority of repricing tools, unfortunately. And this is due to Amazon's top 20 API limitation. So what ends up happening, for those of you who don't know what that limitation is for used books, Amazon sends via the API, which is what we use basically to do everything with, to see prices. They only send the top 20 or the lowest 20 offers. What ends up happening with used books and a few other small categories is that you have, let's say, 80 merchant fulfilled offers within, you know, they're the top 80, right? So when we get the top 20, we're only seeing merchant fulfilled, which means we actually never see the buy box from a technical standpoint, which means we never see FBA, which means we'll probably never see your price. It's a massive issue, and it makes no sense. Like, if they would just go from like top 20 to top 30, that would help a little bit. What I can say, we do have some used book sellers who use Aura. So what you'll find, and again, you can test this, of course, during a free trial, and if you're like, hey, it's not a good fit, we totally understand. Some of your used books, assuming, you know, the buy box and your price is within the top 20, AKA there's not like 70 merchant fulfilled offers on it, it's not a problem. The only reason why it is a problem is because top 20 API limitation. So some of your used books, not going to be an issue. You're going to love it. Certain ones, you're going to see top 20, or it's going to say 20 plus for your position being affected by that. And there's nothing we can do. So yeah, I'll be the first one to say, listen, we're not fully optimized for used books. I don't want to give you that impression.
Well, and no one can really be optimized. Just the way that the Amazon API works, it's not really a thing.
I mean, we have some ideas of how we could handle it. It's just, we're actually about to hire our second engineer. So it's, you know, not that it's not high priority. It's just, it's going to take full dedication for like 3 months of one person that's just focusing on that, which we want to do. You know, don't get me wrong. We want to solve that problem. But it's incredibly complex.
Absolutely, man. All right. Let's see what are your thoughts on race to the bottom? I think we sort of covered that with the oscillation. Like you're sort of controlling the race. So you race it down, you bring it back up, and people will follow suit.
It can exist. Don't get me wrong. It certainly does exist.
And especially with certain like if you're buying clearance stuff from Walmart, just by the nature of everyone has access to
Economics.
clearance stuff at Walmart. Yeah, supply goes up and there's the same amount of demand. Well, then
Right. And so that's what you got to keep in mind, right? It's not a race to the bottom. It's a market adjustment.
mm-hmm.
That's all
a
it
race
is.
to
Like
the equilibrium.
yeah, exactly. The equilibrium shift. That's how economics works. But yes, you can absolutely take advantage of that. And people are going to be like, oh, this seller doesn't know what they're doing. And on the background, you're like, I'm actually doing pretty well. You just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that pretty much, we covered most of the rest of these questions already during the video.
Awesome.
The last thing that I wanted to ask is, what are some of like the future ideas or things that you're working on now that you're really excited about that you want to share? Like, here's where we're going. The product is obviously already incredible. How are you going to make it even more incredible?
Yeah. If you'll notice, right now we're at version 0.87. So we're not even at version 1 yet. It's certainly early stages. We're coming up on year 1, like total, year 1, which is kind of insane what we've done so far. What we're going to move into is an actual like full rebuild. So basically we're using a different programming language that is like really well for what we like. It's great for what we do. And so just updating the foundations, which that only leads to great things, right? With that rebuild comes some new features like dynamically setting max prices, like having a workflows feature. So I don't know, like, so I use iPhone and I'm an Apple fanboy naturally. So I use like Siri shortcuts, like, Alfred, all these tools that enable me to set up automations. And if I need to tweak them, I just tweak the individual setting and everything else flows with that. We want to build that. I mean, right. So here's the vision we have for repricing specifically for you as a user. You list your inventory in Inventory Lab or another tool. It might be Seller Board, whatever, we plan on integrating with multiple inventory management tools. And because you did that, that is the singular trigger that then so many other things happen because you set up the infrastructure, you set up the rules, the foundations for how you want Aura to handle all these things. How do you, if it's in the book category, what strategy do you want to automatically apply and toggle on? It might be strategy C. Great. Set that up, list books, everything happens, and all you had to do was list like you already had to do anyways. So what we want to do is reduce the amount of work that you have to do, but you still have control over everything. You get to tweak the system to work exactly the way that you want, and it's easy to do, and then you just kind of move on and go source more stuff. So we've got a lot of stuff there, lots of changes for 2020. A few things obviously we can't really share early stages, not to be secretive. but there's certainly a few things, some large things. But yeah, we're about to make this space really nerdy, like in a good way. We'll be the nerds, great. You get into the nerdiness. But that's where we're going. We're excited to help evolve the industry that we love into kind of the next iteration.
That's fantastic, man. You guys have really done incredible things in the space and really taken a huge chunk of the market. You're not even on 1.0 yet. And so many of the large scale sellers are all switching over to Aura already. So if all of like the large scale sellers are switching over to you guys, obviously you're doing something right and probably doing something better than options A, B, and C. So
for sure.
Kudos to you guys for sure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate
we appreciate you coming to Hustle Buddies and just kind of giving us this lowdown of like how to set things up, explaining some stuff. If there are Hustle Buddies watching us, if you've made it this far, we're about an hour into this. So congratulations for actually sitting down and spending an hour on something. We have a link. I dropped it down in the comment section. If you want to get Aura, you can access it. I posted the link up there. And we actually have our own little Hustle Buddies discount code that Dylan was awesome and gave to us. So you can punch that in, get a discount on your subscription there. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I actually have to go run to class now.
All right. Sounds good, man. All right. Well, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, if you guys need help, please reach out to support. Please reach out to me. I am support. Don't feel like you're alone. If you have questions, if you need help getting set up, please reach out. You have a team of nerds behind you, so don't feel overwhelmed.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. You too.